Welcome to the Arctic, the forgotten edge of Earth. Far beyond the Arctic Circle, where the sun can disappear for months and the cold reshapes everything it touches, lies a frozen wilderness that few humans will ever see. This nature documentary takes you deep into the far north, toward the North Pole, a place ruled by ice, silence, and extremes. Here, the world feels unfinished, raw, ancient, and unforgiving. For centuries, the Arctic marked the end of the known world. Maps faded into white, compass needles trembled, and sailors believed monsters waited beyond the ice. To them, this was not just a place, it was a boundary, the edge of Earth. The Arctic is one of the coldest regions on the planet. Winter temperatures can plunge so low that exposed skin freezes in minutes. Winds carve the ice into towering ridges. Darkness can last for half the year. And yet, this frozen world is alive. Beneath the ice lies movement. Beneath the silence lies sound. Oceans breathe beneath frozen skin. Ice cracks like thunder. And life endures where survival should be impossible. This is not an empty land. It is home to some of the most perfectly adapted creatures on Earth. A fragile network of Arctic wildlife shaped by cold, patience, and time. The Arctic is also one of the most important places on the planet. It reflects sunlight back into space. It regulates global temperatures. It stabilizes weather patterns across continents. What happens here affects the entire world. But today, the Arctic is changing faster than anywhere else on Earth. Climate change and global warming are rewriting the rules of survival. The melting ice is transforming landscapes that remained frozen for thousands of years. This is no longer a distant warning. It is happening now. In this full documentary, we journey to the top of the world to explore Arctic wildlife, ancient survival, and a frozen ecosystem standing at the brink of transformation. This is the Arctic, not the end of the world, but the edge that reveals its future. The frozen world. The Arctic is a land defined by extremes. Here, the seasons are unlike anywhere else on Earth. For months, the sun never rises. Then, without warning, it never sets. During the long polar night, darkness dominates the Arctic Circle. Temperatures drop relentlessly, the wind sharpens, and survival becomes a daily test of endurance. This frozen world stretches across oceans, islands, and tundra. Sea ice forms and breaks like a living skin, expanding in winter and retreating in summer. Beneath it, the Arctic Ocean continues to move. Dark, cold, and powerful. The ice here is never truly still. It drifts. It collides. It fractures under pressure, creating ridges taller than buildings. Each crack echoes across the frozen sea like distant thunder. On land, the tundra appears barren, but in summer, it briefly transforms. Mosses bloom. Tiny flowers push through frozen soil. Insects emerge in vast numbers, feeding a sudden explosion of life. This short Arctic summer is a race against time. Animals must feed, migrate, and reproduce before winter returns. There are no second chances here. The Arctic Circle is one of the most hostile environments on Earth, yet it has shaped life with extraordinary precision. Every adaptation matters. Every mistake can mean death. Cold is not just a condition in the Arctic. It is a force. One that shapes bodies, behaviors, and entire ecosystems. Fat layers insulate against freezing seas. Fur traps heat while repelling moisture. Migration patterns follow ancient rhythms guided by light, ice, and instinct. For thousands of years, this frozen balance remained largely unchanged. Ice formed, Ice melted and life adapted, generation after generation. But now, this rhythm is breaking. Across the Arctic, the ice is thinning. Seasons are shifting, and areas once locked in ice year-round are now exposed to open water. This melting ice is not just a visual change. It alters ocean currents. It affects global temperatures. And it threatens the foundation of Arctic wildlife itself. To understand what is at stake, we must look closer at the animals who depend entirely on this frozen world for survival. Arctic wildlife. Life in the Arctic is shaped by cold, patience, and precision. Every creature here survives on a narrow margin, perfectly adapted to a world of ice. At the top of this frozen ecosystem stands the polar bear, the largest land predator on Earth. The polar bear is an icon of Arctic wildlife, built for strength, endurance, and survival on sea ice. Thick fur insulates against sub-zero temperatures. A powerful sense of smell can detect prey from kilometers away, and massive paws distribute weight across fragile ice. For the polar bear, sea ice is not just a surface. It is a hunting ground. Seals surface through breathing holes, and the bear waits, sometimes for hours, conserving energy in a land where every calorie matters. But the polar bear is only one part of a complex Arctic ecosystem. Beneath the ice, life thrives in the Arctic Ocean. Microscopic algae grow along the underside of sea ice, forming the base of the entire food chain. From this fragile beginning, a world of Arctic animals emerges. Seals, perfectly adapted to cold water, rely on stable ice for resting and raising their young. Whales migrate thousands of kilometers to feed in these nutrient-rich waters during the short Arctic summer. On land, the Arctic fox moves silently across snow and tundra. Its thick winter coat shifts from brown to white, blending seamlessly into the frozen landscape, a living camouflage shaped by evolution. Migratory birds arrive by the millions, taking advantage of the brief explosion of life. For a few short weeks, the Arctic becomes one of the most productive ecosystems on Earth. As climate change accelerates, the melting ice is shrinking the hunting grounds that Arctic wildlife depends on. Polar bears are forced to swim longer distances. Seals lose safe places to rest, and entire food chains begin to unravel. Survival in the Arctic has always been difficult, but now it is becoming uncertain. To truly understand this frozen world, we must look not only at animals, but at the humans who learned to survive here long before modern technology. Humans at the edge. Life in the Arctic. Long before satellites, engines, and modern maps, humans reached the Arctic. They crossed ice, tundra, and frozen seas, not as conquerors, but as survivors. Indigenous Arctic peoples, including the Inuit, Sámi, and Nenets, learned to read the frozen world like a language. Snow texture, wind direction, animal movement. Every detail mattered. In a land without trees, Shelter came from ice and skin. Homes were built to trap warmth. Clothing was crafted from fur and bone, designed not for comfort, but for survival. Food came from the land and sea. Hunting was precise. Waste meant death. Every part of an animal had purpose. For thousands of years, these communities lived in balance with Arctic wildlife, never taking more than the environment could give. This knowledge was passed down through generations. Stories became maps. Traditions became survival manuals. In the Arctic, memory itself was a form of technology. But contact with the modern world changed everything. Today, many Arctic communities face an uncertain future. Climate change, melting ice, and economic pressure threaten food security, housing, and cultural identity. The Arctic is warming faster than anywhere else on Earth, and those who depend on it feel the impact first. Yet despite these challenges, Arctic cultures endure. Knowledge remains. Traditions persist, and survival continues at the very edge of Earth. But the Arctic is no longer isolated. What was once distant and unreachable is now at the center of global attention. Climate change, the breaking ice. The Arctic is warming faster than any other region on Earth. Climate change is not a distant threat here. It is a present reality. Average temperatures in the Arctic have risen at more than twice the global rate. Sea ice that once formed thick, stable platforms is now thinner, younger, and fragile. This melting ice reshapes the entire Arctic ecosystem. Ice reflects sunlight back into space. Open water absorbs heat. As ice disappears, warming accelerates, creating a feedback loop that intensifies global warming. Glaciers retreat. Permafrost thaws. Ancient carbon, locked in frozen soil for thousands of years, is released into the atmosphere. The Arctic is no longer just reacting to climate change. It is amplifying it. Wildlife struggles to adapt at the pace required. Polar bears hunt longer, swim farther, and face rising exhaustion. Seals lose safe ice for raising pups. Entire food chains destabilize. What is lost here cannot be easily replaced. What happens in the Arctic does not stay in the Arctic. Altered jet streams lead to extreme weather, heat waves, floods, and storms far from the polar regions. The Arctic acts as Earth's climate regulator. As it destabilizes, so does the balance that supports modern civilization. This frozen world, once distant and ignored, now affects billions of lives. The new Arctic rush. As the ice retreats, the Arctic is opening. New shipping routes cut weeks off global trade. Vast reserves of oil, gas, and minerals lie beneath the seafloor. Nations are moving north. Military bases expand along the Arctic Circle. Satellites track ice and movement. What was once a frozen barrier is becoming a strategic frontier. The Arctic has always existed beyond human comfort, a place where survival demands humility, where nature sets the rules and never bends them. For most of human history, this frozen world remained untouched. Ice formed a natural barrier, protecting fragile ecosystems and ancient rhythms from the noise of civilization. Here, time moves differently. Glaciers advance and retreat over centuries. Sea ice forms, drifts, and disappears in silence. The Arctic remembers what the rest of the world forgets. Beneath layers of ice lie stories older than nations. Ancient landscapes, frozen remains of animals that walked the earth thousands of years ago. The Arctic is not just a place, it is a memory of the planet itself. For Arctic wildlife, this ice is life. Every hunt, every migration, every birth is tied to frozen ground and drifting sea ice. For Indigenous communities, the Arctic is not an abstract concept. It is home. It is identity. It is survival passed down through generations. Knowledge here is not written in books. It lives in movement, observation, and respect for the land. Today, the Arctic stands exposed, not conquered, but vulnerable. This frozen world acts as Earth's shield. As it weakens, the planet absorbs more heat, more chaos, more imbalance. The Arctic does not belong to any single nation. It is not a resource to be consumed. It is a system, delicate, interconnected, and irreplaceable. At the North Pole, lines on maps lose meaning. Borders fade. Flags become symbols without substance. Ice does not recognize politics. It responds only to physics, temperature, and time. The future of the Arctic will not be decided in the snow. It will be decided far away, in cities, industries, and choices made by people who may never see this frozen world. The Arctic has always tested humanity's limits. Now, it tests our responsibility. This is not just the edge of Earth. It is the edge of consequence. And as the ice retreats, one question remains. Not whether the Arctic will change, but whether we will. Thank you for watching this full documentary exploring the Arctic, the forgotten edge of Earth. If you enjoyed this nature documentary, please like, share, and subscribe for more documentaries about the most extreme and beautiful places on our planet.